Hi everyone, Dave here. Thanks for coming along to another episode of the podcast. I had a bit of a week off last week because it was half term, but back again now. It's November, blue skies but getting pretty chilly, and good to see the Spireites going well in the league. On the show this week, I've not spoken to a former player, but I'm actually speaking to a current cricketer but Spireite fan, as I spoke to Ben Slater. Now, Ben grew up in Chesterfield, has played for the local teams around the area and obviously for Derbyshire too, and is now at Nottinghamshire. It was really good to have a chat with him about his time as a professional sportsman himself and also as a Spireite fan, so we kind of split the conversation into two. The first half is about cricket, where I show my limited knowledge of the game and ask some proper stupid questions, so thanks for Ben for just going along with it. And in the second half I felt a lot more at home as we spoke about Chesterfield players and teams of the past. He can get along to some games now that they're currently in their off-season, so you may see him around the ground. So I hope you enjoy this week's chat. It's a bit different, but I hope you enjoy it. So as always, I'm at Spire Legends on all the usual places, Twitter and Instagram, and just find us on Facebook and all that stuff. If you can like, share, subscribe, whatever it is you do, it would be great. And look out for the second issue of Linda's Sandwich Shop, which will be coming out in early December as well. So here we are with the latest episode of Legends of the Spire with the cricketer, Ben Slater. Legends of the Spire!
So you are obviously born in Chesterfield, aren't you? You went to Netherthorpe School, is that right?
Yeah.
So when you were growing up kind of as a kid then, were you like the typical sport mad kid? Have a hand at a bit of everything? What were you like?
I think so. Yeah, growing up, like in my early years, yeah, obviously born in at Royal Hospital in Chesterfield, but born and bred in Bolsover. Really, that's where I grew up and spent a lot of time down at Bolsover cricket ground. Dad and Grandad played down there, and yeah, from an early age, all sports really. But I think as soon as I got sort of into the teens, sort of cricket mad really, and that sort of took over, trumped everything else. And yeah, it was just cricket really, just from pure enjoyment of playing. I think I don't think I thought at that age I'd be that good or any good. I just wanted to play it because I love playing it really.
Is it kind of in the blood then?
Like I said. Spent so much time down at Bolsover. My granddad, he played there. My dad played there. My grandma she did the teas and that. And I think in my mum's early days, when she was a kid, she scored there as well. So yeah, it's always been in the blood. So yeah, I think that's where I sort of got it from. Really, I think I got my granddad's talent with cricket. He was good. Good league cricketer, but yeah, I don't think I got much from my dad really. It's all from my granddad, I believe.
And how does it work? Because like I've got a nephew who does a lot of tennis, and like when he was going through the tennis grades as a youngster, like the balls got slowly harder and smaller as he got a bit older. Is there kind of a similar thing in cricket, or do they just kind of throw you straight in with it?
Yeah, I thought when you're young, it's soft quick cricket's a softball and plastic bat, and then once you get to about 10, 11, that's when, or under 10s, 11s, people will play before they get to that age, if they're good enough. That's when you sort of go to hardball, basically. Like the ball's obviously smaller than the men's ball at that age, but yeah, that's the sort of age that you sort of move into playing it with the hard ball and getting used to it hitting you basically and taking the pain. So yeah, it's about sort of 10, 11. I think I don't know actually. I'd have to ask my mum and dad really, but I think I probably started playing hard ball probably before that really. But yeah, that's the sort of age that you get into the proper stuff, as we should say, moving from the softball.
Do you remember the first times getting properly hit by a cricket ball?
Not really, no. I don't really remember that. I do remember certain things from back from back then, but never really anything like that. It was just like different things, like performances in games, really. I've played 10. I think I played for Chesterfield second team because they were short and I was only small then, and my dad wasn't sure, but they only had 10, and I was like, I'll play. And I can remember taking a catch. They were trying to hide me out of the way, so I wouldn't get the ball hit at me, because obviously I was small and playing sort of against the men. And I remember taking the winning catch to win the game and getting paraded off by one of the guys above his head, really. So they're the sort of things that I remember, but not really getting hit by the ball. No.
Might have hit you that hard you didn't remember, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
So who are your kind of the cricketers you kind of looked up to then? Your kind of heroes. Who did you want to be?
Ian Blackwell, probably from a young age. He was born in Chesterfield, played for Chesterfield, was at Derbyshire, then moved to Somerset, and spent most of his career at Somerset. I had a couple, and obviously played for England as well. So when we were young, used to go on holiday to Devon to see one of my dad's cousins down there, and we always used to go to Somerset and watch him. Obviously, it's not too far from Devon, Taunton, and he was probably one who I looked up to, just purely because he was left-handed batter like me and from Chesterfield. And then the other sort of people like Brian Lara, people like that. Marcus Trescothick played for England, and then later on probably Alistair Cook. They're probably the sort of the people that I've modelled my game on, or liked watching, basically, all left-handed like myself. So it can't be no coincidence that I like watching them bat.
Yeah. Well, I'm a bit older than you, but I used to love playing Brian Lara Cricket on the PlayStation. What a game that is. Yeah.
On PlayStation,
unbelievable. Such a good game.
They don't make them like that anymore. That was, yeah. You used to put the cheat codes in and get the big beach ball and stuff like that.
Oh, we should just play Brian Lara Cricket instead. Sack this off. Have a game of that. Yeah, I used to love playing that game. So good.
Yes.
And like you went to, so I'm living in Leeds now.
Yeah.
You went to uni in Leeds, didn't you? So you did like a sports. What was it, like a sports and business management?
Yeah, sport business management. Yeah, 3 years there. Left school, went straight to uni. Didn't particularly want to do it, if I'm honest. But the assistant head at Netherthorpe, he loved cricket. Mr. Townsend, he loved it, and he ran the first team there. And for a state school, it's rare that you would have like a cricket setup like they did there. So he sort of came to me and said, "Look, I think it'd be a good idea for you to go to uni, try to get a degree," and they had the MCCU up there, the Leeds Bradford MCCU, and it meant I could train throughout the winter up there as well. And at the time, Derbyshire basically said I probably wasn't good enough to get a full-time deal there, so they offered me a summer contract. And the coach there said, "I think it'd be a good idea for you to go to uni, get a degree, and obviously combine that with the cricket up there, because I was good standard, playing 3 first-class games at the start of the year against 3 county sides. So yeah, that didn't want to go really, but people who were sort of close to me advised me to do that. And yeah, I don't think I would have done it if it wasn't for Mr. Townsend. Really, he basically did everything for me. Picked my course, basically picked my course, and then went to uni. Had 3 years, absolutely loved it. Probably 3 of the best years of my life.
How does the whole MCCU thing work? So is that like a collection of universities or something like that?
Yeah, we had 3. So we had Leeds Uni, and then the Bradford Uni, and then you played against Cambridge, Oxford, Cardiff, Loughborough, Durham. That's 5. I don't know if I'm missing one somewhere. And yeah, you played against them. That was like the top sort of level uni cricket, and then you had the other stuff below it, like your Leeds Met first team and things like that. So yeah, basically that's how it worked. And at that time, they played friendly first class games at the start of the year. So get experience playing in those games sort of before I'd made my debut for Derby. So yeah, you just train throughout the winter. It's pretty full on, really. Probably do 3-4 sessions a week, and yeah, and try and combine that with your studies and all the going out. So it was it was a tough one to balance, really. Probably the going out and the cricket, not so much the studying, I don't think.
Well, when you're that age, you can kind of survive on a few hours sleep, can't you? And you get up, do a lecture, and then do the cricket, and then go out, a few hours sleep, do it all over again.
Yeah,
I couldn't do it nowadays.
No, not a chance now. I think I was all right in my first and second year, but it caught me in my third year, and I was. If I went out the night before, I wasn't making a lecture before 12 o'clock. But in the first 2 years, I was pretty good. But now, yeah, I'd be useless as well. I'd be even worse now.
So then you ended up obviously playing for Derbyshire, didn't you? So was that kind of an ambition from when you were young? Do you actually ever realistically think that you can end up getting a good cricket career out of it or does it just kind of happen?
Probably not. No. I think I just played like a trial at Derbyshire under 11s, got in, and at that point I don't think it was ever on my radar that I would play professional sport. I just played because I enjoyed it, and if I'm being honest, I wasn't, not saying I wasn't much good, but I didn't score runs like other lads did in my age group from sort of 11 to under 16s. I was probably lucky to stay in the squads basically throughout that time. But I've later found out that a couple of coaches saw something in me technically, and they wanted to keep faith, and they said that I'd be playing my best cricket at 16, 17, and that's what happened. And that's the only probably time that I thought I've got a chance here to make it professionally or get a contract and have a crack at it basically. But before that, I didn't think I would make it, really, just purely because there were other lads doing better than me. But once I got to 16, it sort of took off.
Was there a point where you thought, like a match or something like that, where you thought, oh, actually, I could be all right at this. I could.
I always thought I was all right. It was a bit weird because I was scoring runs for Chesterfield. I made my first team debut in the Derbyshire Premier League for Chesterfield at 14. I was doing all right in the second team there, and okay in the first team, sort of 14, 15. But it never sort of materialised for Derbyshire up until that age, and obviously playing against the men and in that league was a lot better than playing against same guys your age in the age group stuff. So yeah, it just never really worked out in terms of weight of runs up until I was sort of 16, really. Like I said, that was a time where I thought maybe I'll get a contract, and maybe I can have a crack at it. But up until then, I thought I was useless.
And what kind of you'll have played at loads of really like iconic grounds now. So I was kind of interested to know which grounds were your kind of favourites that you've played at. Are there any that you really wanted to kind of tick off the list, or ones that you think are just great places to play?
I ticked everyone off every ground off apart from one this year, and that was Lords, and that's the one everyone wants to play at. So I made my debut in 2012, so I've been playing for 10 years and never played at Lords, the best ground in the country. So this year I finally ticked it off and got to play there. Yeah, unbelievable place. Probably the best ground, obviously the best ground in the country, the most history and things like that. But other grounds I like playing at is the Oval in London as well. I think whenever you get an away trip and you're down in London, it's just a little bit of a different sort of vibe to everywhere else, especially with the 4-day games. You get 4 days in London, and to being so different to up here, it's just, yeah, it's always nice to go down there, and they're probably the two best grounds in the country, really, in Lords and the Oval. So yeah, I'd probably have to say that those two, and obviously playing at Trent Bridge as well, week in, week out, unbelievable place to play as well.
Yeah, and Spireite Right podcast, another Chesterfield podcast. I think it was probably Tom. I think he's the cricketer amongst the three of them. But he asked who did the best tea. Where'd you get the best tea?
Lords is probably up there, and I don't think it's as good as it probably was back 10 years or so ago. They serve it on proper like china plates and everything, and it's like a sit down 3-course meal, whereas everything else you'll probably go up and so you'll have someone serving, but you actually go in, sit down, and you have like options what you can choose from, and that is probably the best food around. But apparently it was even better 10-15 years ago. Obviously sport now is, even like cricket now, is going to different levels in terms of fitness and nutrition and things like that. But I think 10 years ago they would serve you whatever you wanted basically, and there'd always be a bowl of chips on the table. I think Stuart Broad was telling us this time when we were there that he said even 10 years ago there was chips on the table and things like that. So he said and they'd like sticky toffee pudding for dessert and all sorts. But it's not quite as unhealthy as that now, but the food is, yeah, it's probably restaurant quality food, I would say. And I just think the whole sort of vibe around playing at Lords and being in the pavilion, and then yeah, no one else does it like it really. There's no one else. Well, I've only been there once, so yeah, there's nothing else that probably compares to how they do the food. But the best food is when you play club cricket and the tea's there, because that's just, yeah, it's just whatever, potato wedges, pizza, cakes,
the free for all.
Yeah, like loads of sandwiches, and yeah, basically nothing healthy about those. And so they're the best ones really, the club cricket teas. But they've sort of died a death since COVID, I think. So pretty devastated when I go back to Chesterfield now, and it's bring your own lunch. Just have to nip to Greg's and get a baguette from there, really. So yeah.
Not an energy gel in sight there then.
not when you're playing club cricket. No, not at Chesterfield. That's for sure.
So, and obviously you mentioned now at Nottinghamshire. I've got a silly question number one, because I'm probably asking questions that are really stupid. But you get you get a squad number, don't you?
Yeah.
So are you squad number 29? Is that right?
26.
26.
Yeah.
Does that work the same way in football? Do you get to pick it? Do you get given it? Do you get to have like a favourite number? How's it work?
Yeah. Basically, when I first signed at 18, signed the contract, and they asked what number you want. I chose 26. I couldn't decide what I was gonna go with. 26 is my birthday, so that was up there. But me and one of my mates at uni just put loads of numbers in a hat that I liked one evening in the halls of residence, and picked the first one out. The first one was 26. So I thought I should have picked that one anyway, but yeah, that was the first out, and that's what I had in my head. So I just went with it, and luckily when I came to Notts, no one had 26, so just kept it going with 26 really.
I suppose it's good to have a number that's not too popular, because then if you ever do move on, there's kind of a likelihood that you can still get the number.
Yeah, it's a bit different. It's a bit different in cricket though. Lads will sort of have numbers there's not many lads in our team who've got single digit numbers, because they'll have, when you grow up, you'll, especially in the past when I was there, you would never go for sort of the lower numbers. Like, it's a bit different now, but when I was sort of growing up, all the big players would have the big numbers, like the single digits or the tens and whatever like that. But now I think it's different, because lads sort of my age will pick numbers for sort of sentimental reasons and then just stick with them. Yeah, I know a lot of lads have done here since they moved. They'll have carried on the same number that they've had since they were young at a different club. So it's a bit different to football, really. Everyone wants the single digits, don't they? They do. The strikers want 9 and 10, and so it's a bit different to football.
And my other silly question was obviously a left-handed batsman. So obviously, if you're a left-footed footballer, then it can be a bit of an advantage sometimes, because you don't always have many left-footers. And there's kind of pros and cons of being a left-footer in football. Are there similar kind of things in cricket, or does it just really not matter?
Not really, no. Don't think so. I'd say we were probably at a bit more of a disadvantage, really, when it comes to facing spin bowls as left-handers, because there's always rough created by the bowlers follow through, and that's always sort of that's always makes it harder for us batting wise, because there's more right-hand bowlers than left-hand, so it makes it a little bit harder. But there's not really much difference, really, because certain bowlers will like bowling at right-handers, and then different ones will prefer bowling at left-handers, and vice versa, really. And so I don't think really it's not really like football in that sort of sense, where you're at an advantage because you bat right-handed or left. It probably comes more into bowling, because there's not as many left-arm bowlers as right. So if you're a good left-arm bowler, someone's probably more likely to have a look at you if you're the same standard right arm, something like that. Basically, that's probably more of a standout, I think.
Yeah, I'm just a lefty myself, so I always bang that drum. So you had a successful season this last season.
This time, I was winning Division 2 and going and getting promoted. So we done well to do that. Last year we were very good as well. We topped. It was a bit different, the format last year. We topped our group and went into a playoff for the championship. Played 4 games at the end of the season, and whoever finished top of that mini league won the championship on a whole. And because it was a little bit different, there were a few rules which meant eventually we finished 3rd, but we had the most wins and the most points in the country, and we still finished 3rd. So that was a bit of a bitter one to take, and then they reverted the divisions back to 2 divisions, and because of COVID, we went back to where we were before pre-COVID, and it meant we went to Division 2, even though we were the best team in the country stats wise, but points wise we were 3rd, and we went down to Division 2. So it didn't really make sense, but we just got on with it, and there's nothing we could do. And everyone expected us to sort of win it, but when there's expectation like that, obviously you're a bit of a hide into nothing. So I think we did well to sort of live up to that and win it and go up.
Yeah, like you say, the pressure of expectation is something you have to really get used to handling, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, especially having how well we did the previous year. We had a couple of lean years, the 2 years before that, because we got quite a few new signings in, and it's difficult. 4-day cricket, it's completely different to the shorter forms. There's a lot more that goes on tactically and things like that, and there can be a lot more factors that influence outcomes of games. Whereas in the shorter forms, you don't really find it like that. So yeah, it took us a couple of years to sort of gel, get to know each other, and find a formula that worked. And luckily, the last 2 years, that's all come to fruition, and we've been very good.
Yeah, and there was the time. What was the highest you've ever scored? What, 225 was it?
Yeah, 225 against Durham this year. Yeah.
I mean, does that become a bit of a mental slog after a while when it's scoring like that? 'Cause it's a lot of time out there, isn't it?
I can't remember what it was now. I think I batted for 10 hours or something like that, straight across like 2 days or something, across 2 days of the game. I think it was something like, I can't remember, don't quote me on that, but I'd imagine it was around that sort of time frame. It was probably more physical towards the end. I was starting to, because I'd been on my feet for nearly 2 days. So yeah, it was more physical, really, the mental. At that point, I've probably won the mental battle, and by the time I got to sort of 150, 140, 150, the bowler's not sort of given up, but try and get the guys out at the other end, basically, rather than try and bowl at me, so you're playing well. So mentally, I was all right, but physically towards the end, it was tough. I remember coming off at one of the breaks for lunch or tea or whichever one it was, and had to sort of get stretched out by the physio and the strength and conditioning coach, because I was struggling with that. But yeah, it was probably more physical than the mental aspect, I think.
Seen 2 balls then at any point?
No, it just feels like the ball gets bigger when you've been batting for so long. When you first go in, the ball looks tiny, and then it feels like when I was in that innings, I just don't feel like you're ever going to get out, really. I've not had many of them, but it was nice. It was a nice day, one that I'll look back on fondly, probably at the end of my career.
Like being back to the beach ball with Brian Lara Cricket.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, put the cheat codes in that day, and away I went. Wish I could do that every time.
We'll go on to like football then. So obviously you're a Chesterfield fan.
Yeah.
So when do you first remember kind of going to a Chesterfield game or anything like that? What's your kind of era?
I wouldn't be able to tell you the year. I was trying to think about it earlier on. It was obviously Old Saltergate, and I've got memories of being on Compton Street with my dad, and I must have been young then, sort of, I don't know when you start really remembering things, probably 6, 7, 8, probably around that sort of time. I'm guessing, maybe a bit older. But yeah, I have memories on there and of sitting. We always used to sit that side. And then, yeah, other memories is sort of when I started going with my mates from school. So they're the more sort of probably when you get to like 13, 14. Got more vivid memories of then, but I do remember, going with my dad sitting sort of Compton Street. So I going in from the turnstile on the left up that bank and down. But when I really thought about it earlier, sort of more memories did come back. So yeah, I'd probably say around about that age, but I could be wrong. Wrong. Could have been a bit later, a bit earlier.
So you'll be kind of a late 90s through to like mid noughties. So it'd be like Chris Brandon style era.
Yeah, Chris Brandon, Reeves, that sort of era. I remember. Yeah, probably it was definitely after 97 and the cup run. It would have been probably sort of 98. So I remember going and dropping my dad off in town to go in 97. We had the flags out the sunroof of the car, but I didn't go. So it would have been definitely after that. So yeah, probably like 98, 99, early thousands, yeah. Early 2000s, not thousands.
Yeah, I mean, that's I kind of loved that whole kind of Roy McFarland era. You know, Carling Cup runs and things like that were just great fun, weren't they? In that
round. So the car, what year was it? 2004 when we were on the. Was it 2004?
It was 2000. It was 2004 for, was it when we had the great staying up on the last day of the season, and then was it 2006 that was Carling Cup run, I think?
Yeah, that would have been right. It'd been about 15ish then. Those are go to those games. Unbelievable, the atmosphere in the Kop. That's sort of when I started going with my mates, probably that sort of era, and we're on the Kop then, and yeah, those games in that cup run, I mean, unbelievable. With obviously Folan, he was on fire then, wasn't he? And sort of from nothing really, wasn't he? Didn't really do much, and then that cup run, he was on fire, and then he was off. But yeah, got some good memories standing on the Kop in that cup run. Some that I probably can't say, to be honest. But yeah, that was unreal.
Yeah. It was funny with Caleb Folan, wasn't it? Because 1 minute everyone were wanting to release him on a free transfer, and then the next minute everyone was up in arms that we'd let him go for $500,000.
Yeah, I remember everyone sort of. Yeah, no one was having him, were they, at the start, and then all of a sudden that's what happens in football or any sport, innit? As soon as you start doing well, you're the next best thing, and yeah, he was on fire in that cup run.
So how much football do you actually get to watch when you're kind of watch live when you're playing? Because obviously they don't overlap too badly sometimes, but they do overlap quite a lot. So you're spending a lot of time playing sport, aren't you?
Yeah, it's getting probably more and more now. The overlapping more and more. Was it, when did we start this time? Start of August, something like that.
Yeah.
So obviously we've still got 2 months of the season left there. So it's around about this time where I start to get to go a bit more. Obviously, get my holidays out of the way, start of October, and now obviously getting back into training, start of November, second week of November. So got a lot of free time now. But yeah, it's difficult to get sort of when sometimes, like, it depends. Sometimes during the season, the fixtures fall and we won't have a game on a Saturday or a Tuesday, and you can get. But this time it's been hard without how it's fallen. But yeah, this is the sort of time every year now where I can start getting to more and more games, really, up until probably the start of season next year.
Yeah,
because we've got nothing. Well, not saying nothing on, but we're training the day, so, and then not a weekend, so it makes it easier in the winter. But
who've been your kind of favourite players then over the years?
Growing up when I was at secondary school, Wayne Allison, the Chief, the lads loved him.
Yeah. Chief.
Yeah. we all loved him, and then obviously Folan in that cup run. Kevin Hurst, similar sort of time when he was on loan that cup run. Sammy Klingon, that going back to them sort of times. So he was on loan as well, but thought he was a proper player then. And then moving more to this sort of era, the last sort of 10 years, after go with like Morsey, Ryan in midfield, and those two together, love watching them, unreal, and probably Gary Roberts from that sort of era, Everett as well. Yeah, so they're the ones I sort of enjoyed watching. Probably missed a load off there, but the sort of two good eras, two best eras that I've seen. Obviously that cup run and Cookie's first time in charge. They were probably my favourite ones, I think. Oh, Shannon Toyer as well from back in the day.
Oh, yeah, I loved him.
When he used to do his celebration.
Did his backflip.
His backflip, yeah. So yeah, he used to love it when he scored. I think purely for the celebration more than anything when I was that age. But yeah, they're probably the ones really. Love Roberts when he was there with Undercut, left side, left footed, a bit like me, similar left pegs, I think. No, I'm joking. I'm rubbish.
Do you never fancy having a game then? Do you ever have a kick about?
Played on the Pro Acts in, I can't remember, this was like 2014. One of my mates had, when you could.
Oh yeah, you could like hire it out.
Yeah, he hired it out and played on there. Loved it. Missed a penalty in the shootout as well to lose a game, but yeah, absolutely love playing on there. We play less and less now. When I was younger, it's all like on the down low because we're not probably supposed to do it, but 5-a-side. We used to play all the time in warm-ups, but that sort of got kicked into touch now because a few lads were getting injured in the warm-ups, so the coaches don't really like it. A bit unnecessary, but there are a few teams we've seen the last couple of years. It's starting to come back, so hopefully at some stage we'll get football back in warm-ups. It's amazing what happens to the lads in the warm-ups. They absolutely love it, but yeah, we've not got it at the minute. We just play head tennis, football, head tennis. That's our one in the warm-up. They've sort of said you're allowed to play this because there's not any tackles flying in, and it's a little bit better for injury-wise, I think. So, but yeah, loved it when we played every morning in the games. But yeah, it's not to be now.
So someone asked actually, who everyone kind of supports in your squad. So what kind of mix of fans have you got of teams that you've got amongst you all?
You get lads from all over, a bit like football. So we've got lads from like growing up in different places. So obviously you've got Luke Fletcher, he's a big Forest fan, like Nottingham born and bred. Samit Patel, same Forest, because they're from around here. Then you've got sort of Lyndon James, born in Worksop, so he's Sheffield United. Then you've got Chelsea fans, Man City. My captain he was from Lancashire, born up that way, so he's City. Man United, another lad up from there. So it sort of varies really. I'm probably the only one who supports a lower league team really. The rest of them are sort of glory hunters really. There's not many. I'm trying to think if there's another.
Mansfield fans amongst you then?
Well, it should be. One of the lads he's played for Notts his whole career, born in Langworth, so he should be Mansfield, but he's Everton for some reason. So I think he used to go to watch Mansfield when he was young, but he's not. One of the coaches, Mansfield, actually, he's a Mansfield fan. Local man. He's Mansfield. We always have a little bit of a ding dong every now and then, but yeah, I think I'm the only one who sort of supports a lower league team really.
It's interesting, isn't it? I suppose when you have got people from all over the country potentially playing, but you're all sport mad, you are going to get a real funny mix, aren't you, in all of you, I suppose? Yeah,
like one of the lads, he's Chelsea, but brought up in Shrewsbury. So, but it's weird, isn't it, how football works? You watch a game when you're a kid. I know one of my mates lads now, they Man City just because of the players they've got. Watch the World Cup, the Euros, last time round, and they've got obviously Grealish was the one in the last Euros, and they thought Kane was going to City, so they were just like, "Oh, I want to support Man City." But it's mad how it works really. But yeah, there's such a wide sort of mix of teams supported. Our dressing room attendant who looks after the dressing room and various other things, he's Notts County, so he's local. So start of the season every morning when I was coming in and we were top and they were like third, fourth, whatever they were at the start. Every time I walk in up the stairs to change room, I'd shout into his office. I keep looking up Booney, but obviously I'm going to try and avoid him for as long as I can now because he'll be shouting the same thing to me.
They are annoyingly good at the moment, Notts County, but it all comes before a fall, as we know. These things.
as we
These
know,
things change very quickly.
Yeah.
Very quickly. So I have an odd couple of questions just to kind of finish off, of which Paul Fisher said that there's the trophy named after you and Stan Worthington, both former Derbyshire players, ex-pupils of Netherthorpe, and they have the current first 11 students, the current school first 11 playing former students in this annual cricket game for the Slater Worthington Trophy. Is that kind of fun to have a trophy named after you?
I don't know if I'm less embarrassed about it now because I've had a half decent career so far, but at the time I remember when it got announced and that I was embarrassed because this Stan Worthington played for England back in the day. I can't remember what sort of era he was, but he was Derbyshire, England, and I was like, I think at the time I'd only played sort of handful of games. So at the time I was a bit embarrassed, but that was Mr. Townsend, the guy I spoke about from Netherthorpe, the assistant who ran the cricket. He sorted that out, and I think because we're the only two that have ever played first class cricket to come from Netherthorpe, so I think that's where it come from. But at the time I remember being proper embarrassed because Stan Worthington had an unbelievable career and played for England, and I'd played like 3 games or something. So at the time it was pretty embarrassing, but now I suppose not so much because I've been playing for sort of 10 years or so now, so it's not as bad. But yeah, obviously, like I said, honoured to have something like that named after you, I suppose. So yeah, I can't complain too much.
That's a cool thing, yeah. And which current / previous Town player would you choose to open the batting with?
I would have to say past, and only because this has happened, Chris Marples. Mm-hmm. We opened the batting a few times. We were quite successful as well, really. Obviously, he played for Town and played for Derbyshire, and he was coach at Chesterfield, first team coach at Chesterfield for a long time at the cricket club. And whenever we were short, he would play. Even though he didn't really want to, he just stood in the slips and couldn't really move when he was in the field. But yeah, I think we played a national cup game in Hull somewhere, and I think we both went out and smacked it. I got 100, he got 90 odd. So yeah, I would say Mark's always enjoyed opening the batting with him, and what a character. So I'll say him from the past. I don't know if anyone would be any good now from now. But yeah, I'll go say Mark's just because it's happened already.
Yeah. Well, you've kind of tested that out then, haven't you? So it kind of makes sense. And he did actually say, Chris Marples did say Leeds or Chesterfield.
Yeah, well, I didn't know what he was on about, nights out or football team. My dad's Leeds fan.
That's probably where it's from then.
Yeah, when I was a kid, he took me there, as well as taking me to Town. So yeah, it was. I think that's where it's coming from. But knowing Marks, he might have been on about nights out as well, because he does love a night out, or did in his time, I believe. I've heard some good stories about him.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure he's experienced both. And as a dad of a couple of young boys in Leeds at the moment, I'm doing my very best to get them to Chesterfield games at the moment to make sure they're not Leeds fans. But you're quite up against it in this city because it's quite football mad, isn't it? Everyone's Leeds up here, annoyingly. Yeah.
How are you going on with that? Are you...
All right. The other day, I took him to a pre-season game against Bradford, which we won 3-0. Yeah. And then we went last week against Bromley, and he said after the game, Jamie Grimes is my favourite player because he has to slide into people to stop people scoring. So I thought, yeah. So and actually, the highlights. I was watching the highlights on TV the other day, and he went, "That's Shamanga." So I don't know how after one 90-minute match you can suddenly start to memorise all these names, but he seems to be doing it.
Hang on.
Yeah.
Sort of.
So hopefully I can hand on the torch. So what are your hopes then? Finally, what are your hopes for kind of Chesterfield this year? Obviously, I suppose we all just want us to get up somehow, don't we? But how do you think it's going to go?
I don't know. I thought at the start, obviously, after the first 10 games, thought we were flying. And then having listened to sort of some of Cookie's interviews last week or so, about the defence and personnel wise, he wants to strengthen on the pretty obvious what he was getting at, but I don't know. I would like to think that it will be up there, and obviously we've seen the people who tear away at the start. You always get dragged back in this league, don't you? So I think as long as we can stay in touch of sort of Wrexham are going to be tough. I'm watching that documentary at the minute, and the money they're piling in there, and they came on strong after Christmas last year. So as long as you can sort of keep in touch with those two above us, I think you've always got a chance. But yeah, Cookie didn't fill me with too much hope about the defence. After listening to his interviews this week, so I've always thought that I like Grimes. I thought he was all right, but it looks like he's after a few more. So, but yeah, I'd like to think that we can go up. Whether we can go up automatic with Wrexham in that division, with Mullin and Palmer up front, I don't know. So
tough one.
It's going to be tough, but
as a sportsman, like who has just won a title, what do you need to? What would you say the players need to be doing? What kind of mindset do they need to have to be able to get to a top spot and then cling on to it? Is it that typical cliche of like, just the next game, just the next game, or do you allow yourself to think a bit more forwards?
I don't know if it's similar in football than it is in cricket, but I think obviously momentum's massive. For us, obviously, we had the momentum from the previous year, and then we started well at the start of the season, so we were at the top, and then we just kept it going sort of throughout the season. Just kept that momentum going, and a couple of stages where people got close to us or people went above us. But yeah, we just kept the momentum rolling really, and I think once you get on a roll, try and stay on a roll for as long as you can. Really, I know it's easy to say in sport, but yeah, I don't think I've got too too many words of wisdom really. Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit of a weird one. I think when you winning becomes a habit. So does losing. We found that in 2019, 2020, and the last 2 years we've had it the other way around. We've found winning easier to sort of come by, but I don't think I've got any words of wisdom for them really. I'll just go and do your best, don't you? I think in all sports or walk of life really. So yeah, whatever happens, but I would like to think that we can at least finish in the top three, I think.
And I suppose you just hope that it doesn't get to a playoff final come next May, because you might not be able to go.
Well, no, that's the thing. When we've been at Wembley for the Johnston's Paint, I got it was Johnston's Paint back then, but I got lucky those 2 times, and we had no game, so I managed to make those. But the deeper it gets into they're always usually around April time, so. Yeah, the deeper it gets into the season, it makes it a bit more difficult as games come a bit more thick and fast. But yeah, hopefully, if that's the case, then hopefully we win. And if I'm not there, then it doesn't really matter, does it? I don't suppose.
Yeah, there's still time to get that top spot, and then you can go back to your guy in the dressing room and give him number one. That's that.
Well, that's it. That's the goal, but. I don't know with Wrexham in that league. too much money, I think.
And they'll just spend even more in January. So
They'll put another 300 grand on someone in January probably.
Right. Well, thanks very much for coming on. It's been good to have a chat, and we'll see you at the matches, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks,
Cool.
mate.